Hello, Tammie.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So, how was your day today?
Good. Busy, but good. It's storming now.
Is
Getting
it? Yeah, it looks like it's going, kind of going to here in Texas. So, we usually
yeah.
get rain about the same time.
Yep. Yep.
So, all right. Well, tonight we're going to kind of look at these interviews. So, I'm going to go ahead and put my camera on real quick.
Okay.
You want to join me? It's up to you.
Sure.
Okay. So, we're going to start off with the interviews for Lily and Jack. So, let me go ahead and kind of clear the catch really quick here because it kind of buffers a little bit. So I
Okay.
just want to make sure that it's not going too slow.
And just as I
All
was
right,
coming
so
out to my shed, the rain started, so I got wet.
yeah, yeah. Well, your hair looks great. So,
It was just wet.
but yeah, but so we're going to start out with the interview for Lily and Jack's mom. And the reason I want to start out with hers first is just because I felt like hers was the most odd out of the two interviews for the first one, just because she's not very emotional at all whatsoever in that interview. And she kind of says a few things as far as like when she's in the bedroom, like who she's speaking to whenever she realizes the kids go missing. So I just
Yeah.
kind of thought that was weird. I know it's not a huge deal, but to me, it was just weird. So I just felt like, with her being with him for, I think they said like 3 years or something like that, I
What I
felt that
heard
it was
was,
odd that she felt the need. Yeah, I
yeah.
felt like it was odd that she felt the need to point out that he was the one in the bed with her. So
Yeah,
in this
that
interview,
is.
though, I do believe.
And why would we
Yeah,
need
in this
to
interview.
know that? I mean, why would you even think that was? We wouldn't need to know that. We would
Important.
already assume that.
Yeah, and especially in a moment like that, in an interview like that, you would think that you would already assume that you're speaking about him. So
Hmm.
the fact that you have to kind of point it out again kind of makes me wonder a bit.
Yeah.
So let me see real quick here, though. Make sure my internet's kind of buffering a little bit. So I'm going to try to
Yeah.
keep it from doing that. If it gets too bad, then we can always kind of come back and look at the documents and things like that. But we'll kind of see how this goes. So 1 second. And this is someone else's channel that we're going to be using for this interview because it's the only one that I could find. So
Okay.
it is, I believe it's like JR, I think it is. Bring that video up.
Oh, JLR. Okay.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and play this one.
Check it out.
I want them home. I want to hold them. And I want them home. What happened was we woke up. I heard them playing in the next room beside us. And I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them. And they happen to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet. And we get up and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? And he says, no. Yeah. And we get up instantly. We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere, yelling for them. And I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call. They're both really go-lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store. Everyone. They're just extremely sweet kids. I appreciate the huge search effort going on right now. But we've been pushing for an Amber Alert, which hasn't been issued, not just that they could possibly be abducted, which it is a possibility that they could have been, but just an alert to let everyone know that they are missing. We had people text me saying that they weren't aware, someone else let them know that they were missing, and it would just be nice if everyone could be alerted. We thought maybe that we found tracks, but it's still uncertain. It's been raining and they're probably soaking wet. but with the sun today, I'm hopeful that they are feeling warm. We're all filled with pain and sorrow because we just want them found. We want them home. Everyone loves them. They are definitely verbal, and they do have possible autism, but it's not extreme autism. It's just they have issues with school, and they don't catch up with the other kids. I just want to remain hopeful. But there's always, in a mother's mind, you're always thinking the worst. Last night was one of the worst nights because I didn't have them in their beds. And I don't want to go through that another night without them.
And here is
Okay. So, what do you think about that interview with the mother?
Well, I don't know. Most people, like, I'm married, so I don't call him my partner. I call him my husband. So if they're not married, if they're married, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You just don't hear partner too much for somebody that's married. Normally, that's somebody that's not married, or so. I don't know if he's the stepdad or not.
I don't know. They were talking about that though a lot.
Yeah. She's given a lot of information that like they're verbal. They talk. I mean, they'll talk to anybody, and that's a lot of information is like kind of suspect because it's like you're given more than they. I know, it could be the reporter said, "Tell us something about Lily and Jack."
Yeah.
Like Lily and Jack, and so she may have just went overboard with describing Lily and Jack, but it is suspect when they put a lot of information in there.
Well, and kind of like a lot of unnecessary information that sounds like it wouldn't be unnecessary, but it kind of is past the point of you just saying, yeah, they're friendly, they're talkative. And then saying with the autism too again. So you're starting to see like a big pattern of these people. I don't know if these children all do have autism or if it is just starting to be a pattern and maybe you're seeing it more of people who maybe don't know what to do with it and things like this are happening.
Right.
But even when she says like kind of why they have autism, pretty much saying like because they're a little bit behind in school, I mean, it doesn't automatically label you as autistic. So again, it would be interesting to know again, are they labeled or like diagnosed autistic? And if so, like when did that happen for them? Kind of like Sebastian's was a lot newer than I thought it was. I thought they knew for a long time. So whenever we had talked on the live and you had told me they had just found out about you and actually Mandy had came in and gave the time frame of that, I was kind of surprised, because that was a different, way to look at it too, because they didn't have this whole long time period of where, they were dealing with that.
Yeah.
So it almost kind of sounds like this is the same situation if it is that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't like. It's like they could have they could be behind in school because they're not learning at home. You got to help at home, and then it helps in school. You got to keep that going. Most kids before they go to kindergarten or pre-K or something, they're learning at home. They're learning, letters, numbers, and stuff at home. So just because they may be behind learning doesn't, like you said, doesn't mean they have autism.
No.
It could be a bunch of reasons why.
Yeah. And for like my sons with Andrew's and Connor's different diagnosis of the different levels they're on, like even though Connor is supposed to be more of the high functioning level of it, it doesn't really like this. He gets speech, like he gets, like how to socialize and stuff like that. So kind of those kind of social skills and things like that. But for the most part, not the same kind of therapy that Andrew gets. It's two totally different ones. Yeah. So I think for the most part, Andrew does, like Connor kind of gets the social stuff, but he gets a lot more of the speech and kind of that kind of stuff. Andrew's a little bit more of the social, and how to engage with people, how to answer a full sentence, things like that. So, so it would be very different too. So I'm not sure if they're kind of on the same level. I watching the video, I saw that maybe Lily's affected her a little bit more maybe than Jack, since he was a little bit more quieter about certain things, but that's only in that situation, of the singing at the birthday party and things like that. So So the next interview we're going to kind of look at is an interview of the stepdad. And the reason I kind of want to look at that one is because of the way that he cries in it. It's kind of something to me that's more of like that guttural cry, like you really, when you're really sad and you know, something's really bothering you. Something's like,
yes,
right. It's what something you would, right. Something you would expect it from her is kind of what you're seeing from him in this one. So I kind of thought that was interesting for the most part.
It's right opposite of what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. So let me add that one to the screen here. So I kind of skipped through the interviews too and went straight to the parts that I kind of wanted to look at. So we could kind of also fit in the documents too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up now. And then we'll watch his first. I think
we were searching. We covered everywhere possible. Even in the first day we did. Even with me running through the woods, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that. Screaming as loud as I can. Just until my throat hurt. Running through water that was up to my waist. And as soon as I got back, I wasn't allowed back in the woods until a man dressed in military outfit said I could go back into the woods.
4 days into the search for his missing stepkids, Lily and Jack Sullivan, Daniel Martel is pleading with the public to keep their eyes peeled, but he has begun to lose hope they are anywhere in the vicinity.
I hate being wet and cold, so they immediately would have came right back into the house. The only two prints are right beside the house facing the road, and then that's it.
Martel wants the search to be extended to include provincial borders in case the children were abducted, a reality he says is becoming more and more likely.
Post any officers they can get at the New Brunswick border, PI border, and get them at every airport possible.
Martel confirmed that when the two children went missing from the home behind me, Lily was wearing a pink shirt and pink rain boots. She was also carrying a white backpack with strawberries on it. Martel says although he didn't see Jack that morning, he is believed to be wearing a brown shirt, brown pants with a pull-up diaper on underneath, and blue rain boots with dinosaurs on them. He also refuted the claim that the two children are nonverbal, saying while they are on the autism spectrum, they are quite trusting and say hi to everyone. According to Martel, his side of the family are currently the only ones at ground zero after Lily and Jack's mother left the county Saturday. But still, he remains, begging anyone with answers to come forward and bring his children home safe.
Anybody who has any information or you think you've seen something or hear something or any messages from friends about hearing something, just contact your local police services. Anything, guys. Anything.
Ella MacDonald, Global News, Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia.
Okay. So with that interview, I do feel more like that's why I said I don't feel like he knows exactly what happened to them.
Right.
Or if he does, he's doing a pretty good job at pretending like he doesn't know, you know, for the most part.
Well, it sounds like he actually looked for them.
Mm-hmm.
It
and
sounds
he's
like
even calling out the fact that she's not.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So that's a big thing to do against the biological parent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would think.
And I feel like he probably done a lot for them because he seems like it feels like he acts like he's really close to them.
Yeah. I think that he was kind of, you know, where I posted the short of his YouTube page. Mm-hmm. So the YouTube he had, you know, his nickname was Dragonite Dan. I mean, he was like Pokemon page, you know, so, and, you know, you did see where someone came out in the beginning and kind of defended the fact that he was very childlike kind of, or at least brought that up allegedly,
right?
That he was very childlike and that he was the one doing a lot of those physical things with them and getting them ready and kind of doing all that stuff. I kind of believe that's true for some of the most part, because you kind of look also what's going on now. And again, you don't see her, and it's not like she has to be out, but it would be nice. That's what you want to see. And that's what you see from people who are innocent. So you're seeing that from him. You're hearing that deep guttural cry, like he misses his children, you know, almost. He's looking for them. He's holding up pictures of them, letting you know what they look like, letting you know what they like, what they don't like. She didn't do that at all. Like you said, she's telling you the door isn't that loud when it opens. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, I was talking to my partner, you know, Daniel, by the way, like wink, wink, you know, I mean, he was in bed with me. It was Daniel, you know, so
like
there's like
he's telling us which partner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there a reason that there would be, we would think there's
an
another
open
one.
relationship or something. I don't
Yeah.
know, but either way, it gave me the feeling that in that moment of whatever possibly happened, she was possibly with somebody else or something,
Right.
or she was more around somebody else. So I'm not saying he wasn't there. Like maybe he wasn't like in, I mean, it's a big property, you know what I imagine? So I imagine if you're having parties, you're going from one place to the other, probably with numerous different people. So it just makes me wonder, you know, was he actually present in that moment when something actually happened to them?
Right.
Because I'm kind of feeling more like he came about and then she was like, well, this is what happened when you weren't here. And so you need to kind of help us like present the story kind of feeling is kind of what I feel. But again, that's just my gut instinct feeling with him. And so, and there was another interview that he did, and I only found the beginning part of it. And he's in this orange shirt, and he's kind of, this interview, he also cries. So I did look for it. So I only was able to find the beginning part of it. So we'll go ahead and watch that. But again, he's kind of under the same thing. You know, he's letting you know what the children look like, things like that to watch out for. So we'll kind of look at that before we get into the birth chart, like kind of document that I started for them. See just kind of the difference in his two interviews. But, you know, with her only doing the one, again, it was very suspicious compared to his in the sense that he's actually asking, he's searching, he's curious, where she's just very, again, like you said, giving information that really doesn't matter. You know, it's more like yourself. So.
And she's no longer there, correct?
Right. And I still think there's a lot of question around that because they said that, you know, allegedly police maybe commented to her or CPS commented to her it was best for her to leave, things like that. Again, I don't know if I believe that's true in the sense of like maybe they were doing it for her own good. Maybe in a way, yeah, you could say that, but I still feel like they probably found something that made them suspicious of her also. And when that usually happens with CPS, they will tell you, like, you can go to your mother's house with your child, or you can just we can take your child. So which one do you want? You know what I mean? And most of the time, and this, especially in this situation, well, she's probably going to go to her mother's house. So it just kind of makes me feel like that was more the situation. It was more of like an ultimatum, not like it's best for you because we care about you, you know, because she's not helping. It doesn't really seem like. And then they said she walked out of some briefing meeting about searching for the kids too. Again, I could only find, you know, articles in that, and maybe, you know, as I do their birth chart again review, I can maybe add that into that, the article where it says she walks out. But as far as I know, she just walked out of the briefing meeting, and it was.
I looked for that too and couldn't find it.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Mob Cruise Live originally. Is where I think.
Okay.
It was 2 weeks ago, so not the last one, or maybe not 2 weeks ago, but not the last live, the live before that.
Okay.
I think that's where he brings up some of the articles and stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and just watch the second part of this interview really quick, and then we'll get into the kind of birth chart documents and stuff. All right, so let me add it again. I keep closing out that screen. Okay.
No idea. I had no idea. I'm still searching every day. I'm waiting for information. I have to let them do a lot of their stuff with the aircrafts and everything else, and dogs, and searchers. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be coordinated, and I can't just go running through the woods. I want to, but I just can't right now because the search is just so far out.
And so, Tom, we're just about a kilometer away from where the command site was, and where that command site is, RCMP are leading that investigation, but they're on the search and rescue operation. Running in tandem and kind of parallel is kind of a missing persons investigation that the RCMP is involved in as well. And so as those investigators glean new information based on interviews, maybe they'll find a piece of clothing from home and they'll bring it to the search and rescue site. Any new information, they'll bring it to the search and rescue site, and then they will modify their search and adapt their search and sort of fine tune their search based on what the investigators might find out. But in spite of all of this, after 5 days, still no sign of the two children that we've been told of. And we're told that the search will continue into the night again, as per usual, and again tomorrow morning if nothing's been found. Tom.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is the second interview. So again, that didn't really have the part of him kind of crying about, you know, what he was talking about the second time. But again, that's the interview I was talking about where he does it in. So he is kind of, again, there just asking for people to help and do all the things that she's not there doing.
Yeah.
So
Excuse me, sir.
All right. So I'm going to pull up the document next. My computer is buffering so much, so I apologize that it's taking a second.
Okay. I know the weather's not helping.
No, that's what I said. It's starting to get kind of cloudy over here. Hi, Tara. How are you?
Hi, Tara.
Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Chief, for moderating. I greatly appreciate it. And so I guess, how does this look on your screen, the document? Is it pretty good?
Yeah.
You can see it?
I can see
Everybody
it.
Can see it? Okay. Because I like it better kind of this. I like to have the background. I love the little like angels and the rainbow and all kinds of stuff in the background. So
can you see it?
Having tornadoes and storms
today. Oh.
That sucks. Sorry. We were just talking about the weather too, not being so great.
Yeah. It's thundering and lightning now.
I love the rain though. I like the way it feels when it rains. I sleep great.
Yeah, I do too.
So this is going to be the document I did for Lily and Jack. So this is going to be the same kind of intro, just like I did into Sebastian's chart whenever we looked at into his. So let me go ahead and get this off the screen really quick. So I start off with Lily's, then it goes into Jack's. I didn't have their exact birth date, so I did more like I was telling you. Jack's, from what I could pick up and what I saw on the video, it looked like it was like more of like a pumpkin cake. So I guessed more of like that fall kind of birthday for him. And his age with Lily, I kind of guessed more summertime, spring for her. And so with the mother, usually that ties into the birth chart anyways, as far as with the children, because it goes off their moons and things like that. So we're just going to kind of look at this birth chart and kind of get an outline of what, some of the charts are kind of saying for them and what we can kind of expect, but also it just gives us a kind of look into their personality too and things like that. Just like, again, like we did for Sebastian. And then at the end of this, we also do have where we look into like a little bit of Sebastian's chart and what's going on with his right now.
Okay.
So, this one is going to be, though, I went ahead and titled it Through the Veil, a Spiritual and Astrological Reading for Lily and Jack Sullivan. So I also added, this is not a claim of fact, but rather a speculative and reverent reading based on their soul's imprints and the sky's reflection at the time. So part one is going to be soul profiles of Lily and Jack. Is that purple lettering okay for y'all?
Yeah, I can see it good.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so Lily Sullivan, her estimated birth is spring or summer of 2019, and I put Nova Scotia, Canada. So Lily's spirit radiates softness, a child born under likely Cancer, Leo, or Gemini influence. Her soul feels deeply tied to the element of water, suggesting high emotional intelligence, sensitivity to energy shifts, and a deep intuitive capacity even from a young age. So children like Lily often know when something is wrong before adults do. They will and can read emotions like air pressure. So astrologically, her chart suggests a Moon-Neptune connection, which may give her visionary abilities such as dreams, sudden impressions, or a heightened awareness of otherly world energies. She may have spoken of invisible friends or spiritual companions often. Her connection to nature and the unseen is more likely profound. Energetically, Lily comes through as a child who is watching, sensing, and waiting. She may have felt something off in the days leading up to May 2nd, even if she couldn't articulate it. So now we're going to kind of go into Jack's. Is there anything you want to kind of say about Lily's before we go into Jack's, just about her personality, that it kind of gave a little bit rundown of that?
I could see her being what it was saying, how especially with the Gemini, how they're connected to things and feelings and stuff. She looks like she would be like a little clown too, like you know what I mean?
Like kind of like the class clown, likes to tell jokes.
Yeah. So I can kind of see her, and I can see her being, I feel like a caretaker. I feel like she cared a lot after Jack.
Yeah. I think she has a very motherly energy to her.
Yeah.
So I do agree. I think that she has that. And I think that I want to say maybe the dad or the stepdad had made the comment that he did follow her kind of a lot like that, maybe in that kind of motherly instinct, and that she kind of would do things. And in her chart, as we get further into that too, about their kind of what happened during the disappearance, it kind of does go into that a little bit, you know, how he did kind of follow her and things like that.
Yeah.
So now we have Jack, though. So Jack Sullivan. So I put born October of 2021, also Nova Scotia, Canada. So Jack's essence is earthy and a bit more hidden. This child clings to the familiar. He's likely a Scorpio, Libra, or Virgo sun, and he was possibly born during a Mercury retrograde period. His energy suggests a sharp inward world and mind that is full of observation and quiet reactions. So Jack shows signs of psychic mirroring. He absorbs the emotions of those around him. While he may seem quiet or disconnected due to his autism spectrum traits, he is likely incredibly aware, feeling safety and danger through bodily cues. He seems like he follows Lily closely. She is his anchor and buffer to the world. So I feel like that's a big thing too, of why you're saying that he kind of followed her and she had that motherly figure. I think that she kind of was able to put things in a way that he understood it.
Right.
So that's kind of why he stuck so close to her. So that's kind of like that motherly nurturing is like what you're talking about, kind of instinctually knowing what he needs and what he wants.
More than his mother did.
Right, more than his own mother did. So, you know, and I think they gave that to each other. So astrologically, his chart likely includes a Pluto-Mars aspect, which can indicate karmic tests involving protection, control, and survival themes, especially involving siblings or close caregivers. So this is where I feel like this case is kind of a mix between Watts and the Prophets, in my opinion. Just because you kind of see both of that with this. You know, you see where she's kind of acting very dismissive about the Watts. She even says, you know, I want them in their bed again. I don't want to go through that again. The same thing he says. But then you also see how she's using the autism in some of the planning. It feels very planned in certain areas.
Yeah, it does feel very planned. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have that Four of Swords card that came out, which I also did have a little reading for them too. But, you know, you're starting to see where in these things, it's how much planning kind of goes into that. And it also makes it so sad and heartbreaking that these people are doing stuff like this, you know, like, and you know, it's just something that stands out to me in this, that it kind of reminded me a lot of Watts and the Proudfoots kind of mixed together.
Yeah.
You know, and
I kept getting Three of Pentacles every time I do the reading. I'm like, that's planning. You can't get around. Three of Pentacles is planning and working with somebody, you know, collabing with somebody, working with somebody. You can't get around it if you keep getting the Three of Pentacles. There's got to be some planning there.
Right.
That's the point, you know.
Yeah. And it is like concrete planning, like making something like a solid plan, you know. And so with the Four of Swords too, like I had the Steampunk Tarot. And in that one, like it has the swords that they're resting on. But, you know, like when you get ready to get up, you take that one sword and it drops the other one. So in this particular deck, though, it's like a bomb is hanging over the person. So like once you pull the sword, it drops the bomb. So it kind of shows you again, like in the darker side of it, this is kind of what happens again, this situation or the Prophet situation, like it's planning done for something that drops the bomb. You know what I mean? And so there's time that goes into it. And it's not a little bit of time. It's usually weeks or months or something like that, you know? So it's a bit interesting in that way, that they have that energy to them, that they both feel very planned, but also very emotionally detached. Like the one, because there was not a lot of emotion in their reading at all. So I kind of wrote it off to also maybe a possible substance use or something. But I also feel like there was probably already a lack of that somewhere. I don't feel like, I mean, you'd have to be on it all the time to almost have this kind of lack of emotion, like all the time. Like there was no emotion. Like I said, there was like, I think a Three of Swords, but it was like, I had a bit of emotion about it for a second, but then it kind of went away.
It's kind of like forced emotion, kind of like, you know, Chris Watts was, he he rocked or he sucked on his bottom lip, but he never really broke down or got upset about it.
She didn't really either. She like where he was more nervous, she didn't have that nervousness. Again, I wrote it off to substance abuse, not being nervous. But I also felt like it was, again, like a lot trying to stick to a story. And that's where the Prophets came in and it reminded me of them. You know, like the coughing and the like, oh, you know, I took off I drove, you know, like you mean you ran in your backyard back into the house after you used your flashlights in the back. I mean, you can literally put the story together almost how they're telling you So with her so much emphasizing, they talk a lot. Now, in the interview that I did play of him, he does talk about, looking at the airports. Again, that is something you want to hear from a parent who truly is looking. But just because she's saying it so much, it does make you second, guess that comment or look at it a little bit more. But again, I kind of feel like he doesn't know as much.
Well, hers was like, for me, was like more rehearsed.
Right.
His was like coming from the heart, like he was actually talking, but hers was more like she thought about what she wanted to say before she said it, and then she kind of put it out there, kind of uniform, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like the emotion was totally different for both of them in their interview.
Yeah, totally different. Like you said, I agree. His is more in the moment. I feel this is, upsetting for me. And hers is more like, okay, don't mess this story up. You know what I mean? And so that, I do agree with that. And Tara's, she likes these readings. So I'm glad that's kind of why we're incorporating them, because I do like them. I think they're a nice element to add something. Yeah, to get more of their exact birthdays if I could, like down to the day. But, we'll just go.
I looked for it and I couldn't even, I put it, I went to Google to where all of the interviews or the articles, because there's so many articles.
Yeah.
They haven't been missing very long, but there's like 5 or 6, 7, 8 articles on it. And I put in, Jack and Libby's Sullivan from Canada's birthdays, and it never came up with a birthday, just a day that they went missing.
No, and now I know, to hurry up and jump on Facebook before these people start shutting down their Facebook.
Right.
Because I think what was Evil Exist or something was able to jump on it and take a screenshot of it before, whenever she got on it, to put that she was single, which is interesting. Again, you don't turn it on to ask people to look for your kids. You turn it on to say you're single.
Yeah. And then turn it back off.
And then turn it back off immediately. So it's kind of whatever he did, I'm not with him, and turn it back off. So it's kind of it's a little late for that, what I mean? And honestly, you feel way more grimy. I don't really know why, but you do. You feel way more grimy, and you feel way more manipulative, and you really don't see a lot of male energy in the reading.
No, you don't.
A lot more. No, you don't.
It is a lot of feminine.
Even with whatever happened with them, not a lot of male energy still. It still feels very more heavily pushed as a female.
Because in my opinion, and it's only my thoughts.
Right.
When I did the reading, when I get toward the end of my readings, I specifically ask who's responsible for the disappearance or the person missing. And sometimes Spirit will tell me, sometimes they'll kind of play a little game, you have to figure this out.
Yeah.
But specifically to that day that I did the reading and I asked, it was point blank and there was no doubt.
Yeah.
Because I got the Empress.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I agree. I feel like it's more leaning towards her. Now, the birth chart kind of leans a little bit more towards him in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm still going to kind of go, I still feel like, again, she knows the majority of what happened. She's the one that kind of planned that energy. And again, I feel like he went in on it thinking and believing that whatever she was telling him what originally happened is what happened. And so now he's just in a big, hole. Dug himself
well, he's
hole.
believed her this whole time. So
right.
For him, it's almost like I feel like he can't not believe her because that would finish crushing him. So he has to believe what she says. You know what I mean? He don't want to believe the whole truth, I don't think.
Right. I agree.
I think he's kind of shadowing it a little bit. So.
Yeah. I think now too, probably looking in hindsight, a lot of things are coming to mind that he probably feels like a fool. I would. Again, I don't know what's exactly happened, but I feel like there are certain things where she's, got the best of him out of that, and he didn't really get the whole story, or he made himself kind of took the fall for something that maybe he didn't originally, some of the stuff that was maybe said in the story or in the interviews that came from her, but it came out worse from him or something like that, And
nobody wants to believe that a mother would do that. So
and not your partner either.
Right. So that's real. I'm sure that's hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Diane.
Yes, and hi, Diane. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
See, she's a lurker like me. She stays in the bushes. How are you, Diane? Good to see you.
Most of my viewers kind of are. Honestly, they'll kind of tell me that in the comments. They kind of just prefer to watch. They really don't prefer to chat that much, and that's great. You know, I actually don't either. I go into a lot of lives and I'll kind of say hello when I come in, but I don't really talk much other than that, unless there's something that's like, oh my gosh, you know. But I'll just try to more or less put something positive in there as I go along.
Yeah.
So, and then hi, Tom. How are you?
Hi, Tom.
Yeah. So Tom, I know he looks into Ashley Mazzaro a lot. So I think that was recently, I think he said it's been 6 years since Ashley Mazzaro has passed away. And she was in, I believe it's WWE. If I'm get that wrong, you know, I'm sure he'll put.
That sounds familiar to me. Yeah.
And we've looked into it in the past, and I, you know, told him I will look into that in the future here.
Yeah.
We'll get to that again at some point. But yeah, there is like some suspicion around her death, you know, and some of the things that were going on. Actually, a lot of the things that she was claiming around the time of her death came out later, more recently, when some of the charges and accusations, I think charges, I don't know if it was charges or just accusations, came out against the Federation. I don't know if
your mic keeps going in and out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably this one. Actually, let me grab some different headphones really quick. These probably isn't the best. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, there's another, I think I have it written down somewhere, another, I think WWE. I probably can't even say his name right. I got it written down, though. Somebody had asked me would I do a reading on that, and I still haven't done it because I've been so busy. Chris was his first name. Starts with a B, I think. Let's see if I can find it. I got his name written down here in my book. I think they said he unalived him.
These ones should work a little bit better.
Megan, though you sound louder on those. So those are better. I think you sound louder. There was another wrestler, Chris something. Last name starts with a B. Do you know, Megan? There it is. Benoit, Benit. I don't know if you know him.
I did.
Know him. Thank you, Tara.
You can hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't hear. Oh, wait. I think I can hear you now. It kept automatically muting to like my computer.
Oh,
instead of like the StreamYard mute. And I kept on muting StreamYard, and I'm like, okay, why can't I still hear her?
Yeah. You're louder on this. You're louder on this headset.
On this one, okay.
Yeah, than you are on the other one. Okay.
Yeah, the other ones I like those better. They were like I think these are Skull Candy too, but I like the other ones better for some reason. But they fit my ears better. I have like little ears or something.
Yeah. I don't wear the buds because I can't. They make my ears hurt. I have to wear the headphones. But the best pair of headphones I've ever had, and I've had these for like 3 years, are Beats.
Yeah.
And I love my Beats, and I got a pair, and he loves them. And I told Mandy about Beats, and she got her the buds.
Yeah.
But she's like, "Oh my gosh, these are the best headphones," and they're a little expensive. But I've had mine for I think going on 4 years now.
Yeah, a lot of people do have Beats, and they don't complain about them. Like I like Skull Candy, like originally, but they don't last long. They die out easy, and the same thing everyone said. Like I didn't realize, like I forgot because I was using them earlier to edit, you know, because just. Again, they fit my ears better. So I forgot that they didn't work great as far as sound or anything like that anymore. But I'm glad everybody can hear it better. And I apologize that it was probably patchy before. So let me jump over really quick back to, did we read this last part of Jack's chart with the astrologically, his chart includes Pluto? I think we did.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and, especially involving siblings and close caregivers. Okay.
Right. Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and kind of go into the next one because I know I kind of got off there. I was talking a lot.
That's okay. We have squirrels come in my stuff all the time. Diane knows about the squirrels.
Yeah, I know. It happened to me quite often.
Yeah,
That's what I
we
said. Like I joke all the time in lives about like, and I
yeah,
make fun of people about like like squirrels, shiny things, but it's
yeah,
because like it's me.
yeah,
Like I'm that person with the
yeah.
squirrels and shiny things.
Sometimes we
So
have a whole family of squirrels and we just get off track and just like forever.
that's how you end up with your 2 to 3 hour lives. That's how I
Yeah,
always get there.
yeah.
So okay, so current energy around Jack and Lily's disappearance. So May 2025. So the energy around this case feels murky, stifled, and silenced, as though something is being intentionally obscured. So there's a protective veil over the truth, but not from a benevolent source, but more like a shield of avoidance, deflection, or fear. There's a distinct lack of spiritual closure. So Jack's energy feels fragmented but flickering, like a small light struggling to stay lit. So Lily feels more resistant, older in soul and very aware of what's happening, even if she can't fully express it. So kind of again what you were saying, feeling older in soul, kind of more that mother figure. Um, so they do not feel as if they are at peace at this time. The environment they disappeared from carries a cold, stifled emotional tone, not chaotic, but controlled in a way that feels unnatural. So something about the timing of their disappearance does not align with the official story. It feels like someone knew something was coming or was already trying to cover up something. So energetics between the mother and stepdad. There is tension, mistrust, and emotional distance between the two. Spiritually, they feel detached from one another, even if they are still communicating publicly, which I believe they're not doing anymore. So
Yeah.
the stepfather, yeah. So the stepfather's energy reads as frustrated and desperate for validation, which that does seem what he's doing. Actually, kind of in the interviews, he is validating that actually when he did say, at least I'm looking. So
Yeah. Yeah.
possibly because he feels blamed or unsupported, even if he's trying to help. So, and I think that is what he's saying in that. So the mother's energy feels more withdrawn, emotionally shut down, and avoidant, almost like she is hiding behind silence. Her aura is muddled with fear, shame, and defensiveness. Whether or not she is directly involved, she is not being fully transparent, either with herself or with others. There's also a sense that CPS or another authority figure is placing pressure on this dynamic, adding strain and causing them to blame or push away from each other emotionally. So in summary, the children feel separated from their usual environment and surrounded by emotional suppression. Their official story does not align with the intuitive timeline. It feels like there was more known ahead of time. The mother and stepfather are not aligned emotionally and may be blaming each other or collapsing under pressure in very different ways. There's an outside force like CPS, law enforcement, or family that is causing additional spiritual pressure and chaos in the household. Is there anything about that you kind of wanted to reference to, maybe as far as the family and any pressure
Well, when I did
or
my
CPS?
reading, I really feel like it was all I did use the word chaos, like
Mhm.
hectic in the home. Like I felt like I even said I feel like there's a swinging door. Like
Yeah.
and like it was always busy, like there were people in and out. I didn't feel like it was like the normal mom and dad, kids get ready for bed, go to bed after, at night,
Yeah.
bath and kind of stuff like that. I felt like it was like a swinging door, like there was lots of people in and out there.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like they had like a structured, like, okay, let's take a bath at 6, let's have supper at 6, bath 6,
Yeah.
that structure of getting kids ready for bed, and I just don't feel like they had that.
Yeah, especially that all kids need, much less if you're looking at a kid on some spectrum or a special needs, because they really thrive off of knowing what's going to happen. And I do think you're right. They probably didn't have a bad time. They probably just, depending on who was there, they fell asleep when they fell asleep, probably even on a school night, and they might have, like you said, not even had like a regular bathing schedule, things like that. Who knows, but I do think that's kind of interesting too, a little bit, as far as like people coming in and out, because that kind of also does. So if you're looking at a planning thing, even coming out in the reading or in the charts, you're letting so many people around them. They're like, I would say they know their schedule, but there's not one. So they know that they can come there and they can kind of do what they want, that these people are going to usually be maybe under like some kind of substance or something like that, to where they could maybe do what they wanted. So you're still leaving the element of planning open, if not from them, from somebody else that knew their movements enough. Because I'm pretty sure some of the same people probably frequented the house, the parties, things like that, like the swinging door kind of thing, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is they couldn't have just walked out. That place is fenced in the back.
Yeah.
So if you're going to walk out the door, they're little to be figuring a way out. I'm not saying they're not smart enough, but they're little to be figuring out, to get out through those fences. And I don't know any sliding doors that any house that I've ever been in. Nice houses to older houses to trailers. Sliding doors are not quiet.
No. And if it was quiet, how do you know they opened it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know any that is so quiet you don't hear them opening.
No, it usually has like a air pressure thing that makes a noise, kind of like a screen door or
and
whatever.
It's click, when it shuts. It's gonna do that because my daughter has one, and every time it slides, it does that little click just to let you know the door's shut. The latch comes through there. I just don't see you not hearing it unless you're impaired somehow or you're got the door shut. Paying attention. I mean, I just don't see that.
Yeah, and somebody else made a good point with a newborn baby and things like that. Like, I get sleeping in late here or there, but like, what would make you sleep in late to that time frame if you have a newborn baby? That's 10 o'clock's late. I mean, especially when you got 2 young kids, again, on a spectrum. So you would think that, Jackson to pull up. So, I mean, you would think they're up making breakfast, changing diaper, doing things like that. So again, what were you doing almost at 10 o'clock in the morning that's what was happening?
Right.
So, I kind of added like a quick like 5 card spread just from the tarot end of it to kind of see what was going on. So we did like a current status of Lily and Jack, what led to their disappearance, who knows the most, and the energy between the parents, kind of what's coming next also. So we did the first one comes out as the moon, and we do see that a lot, obviously in these kind of disappearances. Like we see it a lot come out with the Proudfoots, and we see it a lot come out right now with Jack and Lily's mom. So the current status of Lily and Jack, the moon. So the moon reveals confusion, secrets, and deception. This card often symbolizes children lost in illusion or deliberately misled. So their current state is weighed down with emotional fog, suggesting they are either in hiding, being kept in secret, or disconnected from reality in some way. They may not even understand fully where they are. So illusion, psychic messages, weathering the storm. So it connects to the moon, Cancer, also a mother energy. So intuitive note for that, they feel out of public view, and there's active suppression of their location and the truth of their location. So number 2 is going to be what led to their disappearance, 7 of Swords. So that is air energy. It connects to Aquarius, devils in the details, failed plans, and wishes granted. So these are obviously going to be, nefarious wishes most of the time. So this is a card of deceit, sneaking away, lies, and strategic concealment. Someone planned or carried out an act with the intention of evading detection. This was not an accident or a random wandering off. It was possibly orchestrated with a false story planted in advance, in my opinion. So an intuitive note for that is a choice was made that removed the children physically or with motive, then covered it in silence. So the third card is going to be who knows the most truth, the Queen of Pentacles. So this is kind of where I still get some more her energy, knowing the truth. And I had mentioned that in my first reading that I was surprised I didn't see this come out in reverse. So it does come out in reverse in this second one. So the Queen of Pentacles is going to be Earth. It is Earth, mother, and manipulation. So when, being in the negative, that manipulation kicks in even stronger. So, for the wrong reasons. So the reverse Queen suggests a female caretaker who has been neglectful, unstable, or self-serving, and is traditionally associated with the mother or maternal figures. There may be drug use, avoidance, or emotional shutdown, and this person likely holds the most damning knowledge, but is either refusing to speak or actively lying, which is what we've only seen from her, rather lying or not speaking at all. So the energy between the parents is the 5 of Wands. So that connects the fires, Aries, Leo, Sagittariuses, and then it is also conflict, competition, and hiding from the truth. So this card shows tension, competition, blame, and unresolved fighting. The parents are not united, and there's active conflict. Each may believe the other is at fault or is manipulating the situation, and there's no shared grief, only friction and mistrust between them. So the intuitive note for them is one parent is genuinely trying to cooperate. So I feel that is the stepfather, while the other is obstructing or hiding the mother.
Yeah.
And then the fifth card will be what's coming next, and what we can expect will be judgment. So that's what you want to see, especially in this situation. I don't feel like this is going to be dragged out like some of
I don't
the
either.
other. Yeah, not kind of like, unfortunately, like, you know, poor Sebastian's has been kind of dragged out. I don't, and, you know, Summers, things like that. I don't feel like it's going to take that route. So with judgment, it kind of connects to the planet Pluto there. So the judgment card, this is a powerful card. It speaks to truth being revealed, consequences arriving, and divine justice unfolding. Something hidden will come to light, especially through community awareness, public pressure, or intervention. There may also be a spiritual awakening or confession or involvement from CPS or law enforcement. So intuitive note, keep sharing, speaking, and investigating their case as a collective. The pressure is working. So this was more than likely not a completely spontaneous disappearance, in my opinion. It was facilitated or enabled by someone close to the children and or possible neglect of any individuals close to the children. So the mother or maternal figure likely knows more than she is revealing, and the children are in energetic limbo, not necessarily harmed, but hidden and spiritually unsettled. So a turning point is coming, but it may require community persistence to break the silence. So how do you feel about that reading, some of the stuff that kind of popped out? Because I feel like it kind of confirmed a lot of stuff that you were saying and originally, even before you did your reading.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like they are still here.
Right. Yeah.
Sadly, I don't.
Yeah. I feel like they might have been for a while, and then maybe one longer than the other, but I feel like something changed along the time of them missing to where now they are, like you're saying, unfortunately, they're, in my opinion, both, I don't feel that they both are anymore. And the reason I feel that too is because it's hard to keep two children. And if you do see the video of her where she is screaming, if she's doing that at home and she's just a little bit uncomfortable in that position, what do you think she's probably going to do with a complete stranger when she can't do what she wants, and that would kind of play into who actually has them. If it was a situation like that, where they're being kept somewhere. But I feel like that would be very hard now at this point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm leaning more towards, like with what you're saying, is I kind of feel like, unfortunately, we're leaning more in the time frame too that we're getting into. Unfortunately, as time goes on, you're looking more at those time frames.
Mm-hmm.
So I also did a little bit more into there. So the day they disappeared, May 2nd, 2025, transits on basically May 2nd again of 2025, the skies held tension. So a Scorpio full moon was approaching May 3rd, intensifying secrets and revealing undercurrents. And then Neptune in Pisces was square Mercury, can cause confusion, deception, and blurred communications. So this is connecting to a lot of water again. And like we were talking about, it, also connecting to mother energy with water. So Mars was in Cancer, and it can lead to emotional aggression or protective action, often connected to family dynamics. So that kind of reminds me of what you're talking about with the swinging door. It says that a little bit too coming up. So this combination suggests a veil over truth, likely involving misleading or conflicting statements and potential emotional eruptions behind closed doors. So there's a sense of someone familiar being involved, possibly someone who either felt overwhelmed or was holding emotional tension that no one else noticed. So energetically, they do not feel far from the original property. There is still a pull there, especially from Jack's energy, almost like a loop or an echo that hasn't completely closed. Their souls do not feel fully crossed over or released, which can happen when children are in a liminal or trapped energetic state, which would be like being on both sides. So again, you really can't do that in the human form.
Yeah, especially when they're little and they don't understand anyway. No. So it's hard for them to transition, I think, like that because they don't understand.
Yeah, and that's why I think they're lingering between both, and that's why their energy still feels heavily. Like, I think that's why a lot of people are picking up. Maybe they're still possibly here, because it is that lingering feeling, and one does seem to linger more than the other. Mm-hmm. So, and they did kind of mention in here that they thought maybe that could be Jack's energy. So what I got for her spiritual impressions, so Lily's presence is stronger. It seems her spirit is trying to communicate more. There's a sense of her trying to comfort Jack even now. The name also connected to this. Now, I don't know if this is someone that would be more connected to what happened, or someone that's more connected helping them as they're trying to, get out of that limbo area, is kind of going to be more like of Elena or Elle. So those are two, a name that they're looking at. So possibly someone she was told to trust or was near the home. So yeah, this one's saying more of that. So yeah, it is someone who is more near the home or might have something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an echo of water, but not drowning. So more like a creek or standing water. He did mention being in water up to his chest, I think. So a lot of people were pointing that out, it was interesting that he said that he was up to his chest in water.
Mm-hmm.
So it says more like a creek or standing water, hidden or obscured by natural cover. Jack shows a flash of red, possibly a piece of clothing or a vehicle color. He shows a repeated image of following Lily quietly, holding something soft in his hand. Lily's energy sends, "We didn't mean to go. We didn't go far." She also shows a room with a green curtain or cloth and what looks like a torn or broken ripped toy. So closing reflection. This energy is delicate. These children are not lost in spirit, but they are waiting. I encourage gentle candle rituals, praying for visibility, and collective focusing on light surrounding their names. Ask spirit daily to illuminate the truth, not expose, just reveal. Their story wants to be seen, and their spirits want to be honored. So where might Lily and Jack be? The children's energetic trail does not feel like they left willingly or far. The statement that they left on their own feels like a cover story. Energetically, this disconnects from their actual spirits. Here's what comes through clearly. No strong escape signature in either child's chart, especially Jack's. He would not have wondered. Lily feels more hesitant about where they were taken, and it feels like she was coaxed or called to trust someone, a calm voice, a familiar authority. What do you think about the familiar authority?
Like it was somebody that she knew.
Yeah, like somebody that maybe would have been closer to maybe family, or somebody that she might have just saw around there a lot. I feel like it's a stronger, more of a girl.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it might be maybe like a I really don't know whether to say it or not, but I almost have kind of feelings about the mom.
Yeah.
Not the mom, the mom's mom. About the
mom. Yeah.
About, I don't know if it's really, who was in the interview?
I don't know. I didn't see that interview actually. So I didn't see that one, but I did kind of think like, because some of the stuff that the mom did say, I feel like she kind of knows something.
Yeah.
And I do think it is her mom that said it. I don't remember exactly what she said. And like you said, maybe we could look at that one too next and see, if I can ever find that other interview in that article. That could be in the next one, maybe see what her interview was and see who that was and what they said exactly. But it would be interesting. I just know what I heard and what I did read in the articles. It kind of sounded like the daughter,
It did.
They sounded like they kind of got their story together. And that's kind of why I feel like she's doing all this. I feel like the mom's kind of telling her, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
It'll make you look less guilty. You know what I mean? So it'd be interesting to know what her mother's background is, kind of like how we found out later about Katie's mother's background, which I recently saw a video of that, and horrible. No wonder why she's on probation for that long. Absolutely horrible stuff. You know what I mean?
I've never heard anybody be on probation for 99 years.
I'm surprised she's just not in jail, to be honest.
I don't know how that didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it didn't happen, but she should just be in jail. After the stuff that I read that she possibly participated in and did, no wonder. You know what I mean? Like I said, and I can't believe she had Sebastian around her at all.
Just no kind of protection for her son.
No. And it's kind of like you get this from her too, kind of what you're feeling with Malaya, I guess is how you pronounce it, or Malia. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, but they're both very careless like that. Both totally unemotional, totally detached. It's almost like, I don't know where they go, but it's not here. You know what I mean? Like they're not here with everybody else.
Right.
So,
Tara, that was the one I'm talking about, is the older lady there was an interview with the older lady, and I can't remember whose mom that was. That's who I'm referring to. I think she was gray-headed. Was she
Yeah.
gray-headed? Or I'm thinking that was her mom though.
Yeah, I feel like it was probably her mom. I don't think it was his. I think that he had made a comment that his mom and then the brother or something like that were helping, but I don't
Mhm.
think they ever got on camera. So I'm pretty sure it's her mom.
Yeah. Yeah. It would
So we'll
have to
go.
be somebody, they would trust that they see a lot,
Yeah.
that they see, pretty often, that they would trust a voice like that, somebody.
Yeah, like a motherly, nurturing, grandmotherly kind of voice. It does feel very pulled by female energy.
And there's a lot of female energy in my reading, not just a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
like the Queen of Cups came up, but she came up reversed.
Yeah.
The Empress came up,
Yeah.
things like that. So,
Yeah, and that's what I got a lot of again, a lot of women, a lot of female, not
yeah.
very much male. Like I said, I didn't really see any male in mine. Like I said, so again, the only thing I think he's guilty of is going with her story and not asking more questions. And probably again, stuff before that, as far as like maybe the neglect and substance. I don't know what he's done as far as that, but if he was participating in that, then yeah, that's part of what he's guilty of too. But I mean, as far as the story and the putting it together and the kids actually disappearing, I just feel like again, it was her kind of energy.
Yeah.
But it says there's a structure nearby, not far from the home. So this is kind of more going into the area, what's around there, what you can be looking at. So it says an old shed, outbuilding, or unfinished cellar, a disused vehicle or trailer, something hidden in plain sight. So near or partially surrounded by brush or dense trees. So we know that's a lot of that area. There's a sense of earth and metal. So that's kind of like the backyard. That's why I thought that was interesting, how you're saying too. Like I don't see them going over the fence because of what they also described they were wearing. The clothes, the fence was rusted. So, and it was really tall. So that would have been hard for them to try to climb over a rusted fence in the clothes they were in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think they would have tried it. So there's a sense of earth and metal, no deep forest, but tucked near something man-made. It does not feel like open exposure, but the energy is contained, heavy and still. Dogs didn't pick up scent, possibly because the path was blocked intentionally. Evidence may have been placed in a container, vehicle, or plastic barrier. Something was used to throw off the scent, like bleach or ammonia. They never actually walked out. They may have been moved inside the house or out through the back. Didn't you say that's how you felt they were moved a bit?
Yes, because it was definitely not out the front. I don't think they were taken out the front, and I don't think it was during the day.
Yeah.
I think this was later in the night, and I think it was like they had time to do what they did and come back, and I feel like it was hours before they were missed. I mean, I think we could even be a day off.
Yeah.
On how long.
I agree with that. I feel like it's a transitioning rather from night to day or almost from night to morning.
Right.
Like almost where like the dawn kind of breaks. I just don't know if it's at night or early morning. It feels to me almost like it's going in tonight, but it could be early morning. I mean, again, it just feels that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is something that I thought was interesting when I read it. And you were kind of saying that you thought that's kind of how they were moved, if they were moved at all within that way.
Because if they'd have went out, see, like I could see them picking up their scent in the backyard because they probably went out there and played. But if they would have went over the fence and out in the woods, they would have picked the scent up on the fence and outside the fence.
Yeah.
The dog would have picked it up immediately.
Yeah, especially because it would stick to that material, I think, pretty well. Yeah. So you'd have to really cover it.
I just do not see them walking out.
No, not two of them. Again, like I kind of feel like one would stand in place and maybe like call for some or scream before they would just follow each other that deeply into the woods and what they say they were wearing at the time that they said it was happening and the way they said it happened.
Yeah.
So let me see. So we said, yeah, they never actually walked out. So who, and this is where I did into the chart, who holds more responsibility, the stepdad or the mother? So this is more, again, just tying into the chart and kind of what it's saying from the place and the time frame it gets. So here's what surfaced spiritually and through their energetic imprints. Mother, Lily and Jack's biological mom. She feels emotionally shut down. There's deep grief, but also a sense of fear of the truth. She's either protecting someone or cannot face the full scope of what happened. I don't feel her as the direct possible cause, but I do feel she allowed patterns of neglect, fear, and denial. Her energy feels more avoidance mode than she has. She may have just ignored signs. So I have to say, that's my intuition feels she's a little bit more responsible. So, and that's where I kind of disagree with their chart. So stepfather, his energy is cold, forceful, and defensive. Mars-Pluto style force radiates off of him. His chart shows possible dominance in the home and explosive tempers or controlling behavior, even if it's well masked publicly. The children may have interrupted a moment of high tension and things escalating. So this still stands out to me, what you're saying about the swinging door or the chaos or something that would kind of come and go. So it is still very much saying that's what was happening at the time. I just feel like it was more the mother, but again, the chart is saying it could be more the stepfather. So it'll be interesting to see when that comes out too, which one was maybe carrying more of that. So, and I feel like they said, if he is masking it, he's masking it pretty well.
Yeah. So. I mean, he really is. Cause I just don't get the sense of that from him. I get more of a, childlike.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that again, I can't say it enough. Dragonite Dan, man. I mean, like you go on the page and he's just, I'm so excited to share my Pokemon cards with you and all this stuff, and I'm kind of like, I don't get a mastermind from.
No, I don't either. That's why
I sent it to you right away, and I was like, Tammie.
Yeah, I mean, unless she constantly, told him what to do, and he had to do this and he had to do that for her, and she was constantly making him, and he just got fed up. Yeah. But I still don't see it at him being at that level.
It almost feels like this is where the Watts thing kind of weighs back in. No, this is what I'm saying. There's a swinging door between the Proudfoots and the Watts to me. So it's like if the Proudfoots and the Watts had a baby, this is what you get.
Right.
This, it's like, ugh, disgusting. But so let me see. I don't know if we read this part or not. Did I read if one is more responsible? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I'm just going to read it anyways. Yeah. So if one is more responsible in action, it may possibly be the stepfather. If the mother is involved, which I 100% believe she is, it feels more after the fact or perhaps complicit in silence, confusion, feeling overwhelmed, or maybe even feeling threatened. So there's a cover-up energy from May 2nd onward, not just a missing person's energy. So what can we expect? Media or public pressure will likely stir something loose between late May and mid-July 2025. So especially around another emotional incident or another case that forces comparisons. A female witness or relative may begin to crack emotionally and leak a detail, even accidentally. So spiritually, Lily shows a green cloth, a broken toy, and a child's sock, items that might be near their original location. Dogs will again be used, and if near water, it may be still or partially drained, like a ditch or a pond hidden by overgrowth. So that's the end of theirs, and then we just have a quick rundown for Sebastian's at the end, because I do like to always add an energy update for him.
Can I say something real quick about what you just said? Where it said there may be a person that says something without knowing that they're tattling. In my reading that I got a page of swords. Now, we know what the page of swords is. He's nosy.
He's a tattletale.
He's a tattletale. He's always into people's business. He's like, but he doesn't know how to present the evidence that he has. He doesn't know how to present information. He doesn't know how to use it. So I thought that is very interesting, because I got the page of swords.
Yeah, and they do it very kind of like fumbly. Like they don't deliver messages the best because they are the pages, so they are the babies. Right. They're not really good at communicating yet. So you get it in a really jacked up kind of way. So that makes sense with that. So okay, so we said the dogs will be used again. So is there anything else though that you want to add about their readings though before we do get into going into Sebastian's next really quick and kind of what's maybe going on with that case. Because to me, I was telling the reason I wanted to tap back into that, Mother's Day felt very like it was kind of very oddly quiet energetically around that time for his case. And I feel like since then it's gotten even more kind of, I want to say stale or stagnant feeling also there, but I only feel like it feels that way on the outside. So that's kind of why I wanted to add something in there for Sebastian. Again, looking at some of these cases and comparing them to, like I was saying, like the Watts or, you know, this is a lot like that. So
I do feel like they're near water, if not in water. I feel like they're near water, very near. I was seeing a bridge, like a small bridge, but not like some kind of major bridge you go across or anything. What I would call it for me was like a country bridge.
Yeah.
But I don't see them very far from home at all.
And it does kind of like have that kind of like you see their fence, it's how it's rusted and has the metal, but it kind of reminds me more of like an old down kind of rundown country shed, and you'll see the tops of it like that, and it's all kind of rusted and falling apart. So it would be interesting to see if that kind of stuff is again going to be maybe in that area, or I haven't seen a big like aerial view of it yet, but I do know. Yeah, I do know when I watch some of the channels, though, there were areas that I don't know if it's like green tarps or green, what it is from above, but there are things that are kind of light green, because the green that I more see is not really like a light green, like a highlighter green or a dark green. It's kind of more like this green.
Okay. Yeah. Like a granola green.
Yeah. So it's again, it's not like a dark, deep nature green or a bright highlighter green. Right. It's kind of like in the middle. So that's kind of the green that I see. But again, it kind of does look more like a cloth. So, and then I thought that was interesting as far as like a broken toy or a sock too, because it does look like there's crap everywhere. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a broken toy and sock somewhere.
Yeah.
It's crowded in that. I mean, just junk everywhere. So I don't know.
Yeah. And then somebody else was saying too, like if that's what the outside looks like, imagine what the inside probably looks like, you know, and again, you feel so bad and hope that hopefully they were keeping it clean, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say hello before we move on to
Canadian.
Yes, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. And thank you everyone else too for being here. We greatly appreciate it. And if you are enjoying the live, please give it a thumbs up. Tammie and I would appreciate that as well. So
that's right. We will.
Yeah. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Also check out Tammie's channel too as well. So it's Barnes and Noble True Crime. We'll add that link in the bottom too. But yeah, so I guess we'll get into Sebastian's next if you're ready to go into that part. Okay.
Sure.
So I added the most recent update for him. So this is going to be like more like the last 2 weeks or so. So I just added again his birthday, and I don't know his time of birth, so I just put in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So it automatically kind of pulled up a lot of like Katie's like emotional problems as a lot to what was going. Yeah, a lot to what was going on right now. So we're going to kind of look at that. So the first thing that popped out kind of was his mother's detachment and kind of why she's so numb and what's in her chart that makes her that way. So, because this has a lot to do with, you know, why things are kind of holding up and I think kind of being stagnant in that way, because she's not letting herself feel a lot of that stuff. And maybe we would know more if she did. But in her chart, August 1989, that's kind of when I got her birthday. It just says she has heavy Neptune influence, spiritual confusion, denial, and addiction prone. So she's having a lot of addiction coming out a lot now in her charts from what I can see, in my opinion. So I think that she's probably dipping into a lot of that behavior. So you do see wounded moon Saturn aspects in her chart. So likely abandonment by her own mother or emotional neglect early in life that she really hasn't healed from or learned how to deal with. So Chiron and Cancer Virgo themes, unhealed trauma around nurturing and ability to mother without feeling consumed or lost. And I think that is, again, a lot what her issue was with him. I don't think she knew how to just open up and just be open-minded. Because I mean, I think his needs were very simple. I think she just didn't know how to do that.
I just think that once he was diagnosed and they put a name on it, he just became a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it really does seem like you're right about that time frame and things, and kind of about how things started to change, because you look at these pictures of him when he's young, and I mean, he looks like he's having such a great time, like fishing and going and doing all these things, and he's got on he just looks, he's always got his hair cut and he looks so well groomed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at what possibly could have happened, and it's like, how? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, when did something just change so night and day, almost to the point where it's like, it's so sad, because it's like, again, you see where it just looks like they maybe didn't have the best, relationship ever, but it looked like he was happy. It looked like she was somewhat happy. So you just see those pictures, and then again, you kind of think of what could have happened, and it just makes the whole thing even more just kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, possible narcissistic wounding. So, the kind that blocks empathy and builds false realities to avoid guilt. So, complex trauma for her likely began early in childhood with a sense of being unwanted, emotionally abandoned, or made to feel like a burden. That doesn't excuse anything. That just shows she never developed the capacity to fully bond, attach, or protect. She froze emotionally, and when danger came, she chose feeling numb over action. So that's again why I just kind of feel like I do think she can emotionally do that a bit, but I do think that that's kind of how she's getting through it, what she's telling herself. But I do think that the addiction is still weighing a lot in there. And again, that's just my opinion from what I've watched her what I've watched her say and do, and some of just the way she looks. I mean, that's what I get from her. So, Sebastian's current energetic signature. So this is going to be for this month of 2025, May. So Pluto trines his natal Mercury, which is Sagittarius. Deep revelations and hidden truths are starting to surface. Spiritually, this supports messages being delivered and evidence or information coming to light through energetic or investigative means. So Saturn conjuncts his South Node Pisces. Karmic timelines are being completed. There is closure energy building, and something from the past must be acknowledged. This often shows up as unfinished business and starting to become clear. So Neptune trines his natal moon, likely in Cancer or Leo. His spirit feels empathically heard by specific people and spiritually attuned to adults. His emotional presence is very strong. There's an ethereal guidance system happening now. And I was telling Chris that I do feel like his energy is very wise and older. It is like if you tap into an adult, and maybe that is because he was I guess really pretty much the only child. As far as I know, Faith wasn't there most of the time. So, but usually you do see that too a lot of times with only children. They're more adult-like and things like that. You do kind of get that with him. He does like to have the energy of playing and dancing and being a kid, but he also can almost like hold the energy that you could with an adult.
Right.
So that's interesting. Energetic field.
Didn't have any other kids. Sebastian was his only son.
No. Yeah.
So
yeah.
With Seth, he was by himself too. It was just him and his dad.
Yeah. Yeah. And Seth even said that. He was like, I just want to find my son. He was like, he's my family. He's like, he's my only son, and so it makes you just want to push harder to find Sebastian and bring him home, because they definitely need that with each other. They have each other, right. So that's what they're looking forward to here. So the energetic field though around Sebastian's spiritual energy is increasingly active, gently persistent, and very hopeful. He is no longer in a waiting mode, and he's helping to align synchronicities behind the scenes. His energy is also connecting to specific people in law enforcement and drawing attention to recheck areas and evidence. So his mother's chart, her current emotional and mental state for May of 2025. So transits. Saturn square, natal Mars, Mercury, so Leo or Virgo. Mental stress, pressure, and fear of being found out. This often creates mental rigidity or defensiveness with her. Pluto in conjunct natal moon, Scorpio and Sag. So she has extreme emotional lashing out. She shows internal battles and likely some regret, avoidance, and projection. So Uranus is near her south node, sudden karmic reckoning. Her past actions are awakening her consequences. She may feel watched, cornered, or destabilized emotionally. The energetic feel. She's highly on edge, going back and forth between detachment and panic. There's an internal war happening, but one part of her suppresses the guilt while the other fears being exposed. She likely suspects that people close to her, even family, are questioning or distancing themselves from her. She may be trying to control her image or even reach out to others to redirect the narrative, but the energy isn't working in her favor anymore. So the stepfather's chart, October of 1983, inner world and behavior now. So his transits, Pluto squares Mars, late Libra or early Scorpio. There's extreme pressure, anger, or possibly control issues starting to surface. Saturn opposing natal Venus moon, Virgo, Pisces axis. So there's coldness and emotional detachment, also numbing, coming from the stepfather. Node squaring his natal sun. He is at a karmic crossroads. His past is under review by fate. This often shows as legal or spiritual consequences, building even if no external actions have occurred yet. So the energetic feel. His energy is closed off, defensive, and energetically resistant to the truth. He may feel threatened, and there is a vibe of suppression or pushing others to keep secrets. He's very tense under the surface and likely very aware that attention is turning back towards the case. His chart shows very little empathy right now, but a high level of avoidance and protection of his own image or safety. Which he says a lot that he feels safe. I don't believe him.
Mm-mm.
He sounds like a cornered animal all the time.
Yeah. He's
So,
like,
I
"Oh,
don't know.
you're safe." I was like,
Yeah.
"From
No.
what? What are you safe? What is exactly do you think you're safe from?"
Yeah. And if he's safe, he also makes the comment in the same interview that they're being threatened and that they're not safe.
Right.
And to leave them alone and to just stop. So it's very interesting that, they're safe.
Because
But
they
then he says,
specifically ask him, "Well, do you feel unsafe?" Well, no, but you
Yeah.
just said you were threatened, but
Mhm.
yet you don't feel unsafe.
No. So again, he's always acting like a cornered animal. So if you don't feel unsafe, you wouldn't be acting that way.
Right.
Or lying too. So both.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, astrologically in the summer. So for May to June of 2025, Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus is activating hidden truths and forcing unpredictable outcomes. So this bodes well for sudden tips or new attention to areas of the case that may have become stagnant. Saturn retrograde in Pisces is starting on June 29th. This will revisit karmic events, emotional lies, and withheld or evidence that's being withheld from the past 1 to 2 years. So other cases probably will have some movement in too. It'd be nice to see if maybe Summers would.
Oh yes,
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
So Mars and Leo, late May into June, stirs up pressure in the stepdads and mothers' charts, especially around public images, anger, or impulsive behavior. So I feel like that kind of shifted with the stepdad for a little bit. He seems oddly quiet. So whether he's going to explode again or, again, he's being quiet for a reason. But
He's been quiet for a little bit. I mean, longer than for him. It's a long period because he's usually on somebody's channel giving
complaining.
and cussing somebody out, and his last big fit throwing, I call it, was against, if I'm not mistaken, was against another creator. And he got really, really like, "I've looked you up," and
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's just way beyond.
That's a threat, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a physical threat, in my opinion, if you're saying stuff like that. So again, it's kind of interesting to see him going on there in the situation he's in and making physical threats.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm surprised he's still doing stuff like that. Like you said, maybe a lawyer has finally told him to stop doing that so much. So that would be interesting. But so we have a spiritual insight from Sebastian's chart. So he is guiding people who can hear him emotionally, physically, and practically. There's a feeling that he knows something is building. He doesn't need punishment as much as he wants the truth. So right now, he's also very aware of what's happening behind the scenes, which is his stepfather's and mother's spiritual reckoning. There's tension around them, and Sebastian can feel that the storm is gathering. He's not scared, he's watching. Sebastian's energy is zoned in right now. And that is because there's movement in the spiritual and physical realms. What it will feel like. Pressure is building legally, emotionally, and energetically, particularly around his stepfather at this time. There is something about information coming to light and people are starting to talk even more. His mother feels emotionally destabilized and there is some panic beneath the surface, kind of like a woman grasping to keep control over a story that is starting to slip away from her. Spiritually, Sebastian's guides are active and nudging the right people, amplifying their voices, and it helps soften the resistance in those who once didn't listen. It feels like a significant reveal or leak, either a statement, piece of digital evidence, or cooperation from someone close to them. This may not be public yet, but the energy has cracked. The timelines have split, and one where the truth was buried, and one where the truth is revealed. So the truth is rising, and investigators are revealing evidence digitally, emotionally, and through some already given testimonial statements. There's a sense of time of the timeline being reconstructed, perhaps slowly but deliberately. So I kind of feel like that's something that they kind of do about a year into the investigation. From what I saw, from the most part, I do think that is kind of when they'll sit down and kind of re-go over everything they've had and just kind of start with fresh eyes from like day one.
Yep.
So, but what this will also
review everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what this will also feel like: phone records, text threads, location data, or prior CPS involvement being compared against stories given by the mother or stepfather in the past. So inconsistencies are starting to show up. Something that was once dismissed is now being reconsidered in a more serious light, possibly a prior injury, report, or statement. The stepfather's energy is more exposed than the mother's. There is anger, but also sloppiness around him. Spiritually, he's unraveling and losing control of his temper, which may be causing issues with people he once manipulated. And this is where I added, and possibly this could be one or more of the hate channels conspiring against them.
Yeah.
You know, finally being fed up with the fact that they haven't been caught and they haven't been busted, and that they were hoping that their channels were going to grow and thrive off of this. And now, again, they're kind of rolling in the mud with the pigs. You know, so that's kind of where I got a lot of that feeling from that.
And I think the sloppiness comes from him getting on there and throwing a fit and, you know, saying the things that he's saying. And like, you know, this is the biggest child manhunt or the biggest child search in Tennessee history. You know, just the things that he says. It's like, you know, he's like, Sebastian fooled everybody.
Yeah. So, he even made a comment, he always wanted to be a ninja. Well, he just, and that was just like, it pissed you off. It really did. It's like, you know, it's like you say real ignorant things, you know, like it's not like a giant Neanderthal every time you talk, you know, and that's the thing, like what people is about him, if he can't get on a live and calm himself and talk properly there, again, what do you think poor Sebastian was doing with that home? And that's another thing, like they make the comment about possibly being pull-ups. What do you think was, I mean, if he was really yelling at this kid like he was probably doing and making him feel the way he was feeling, he was probably scared. And that's where the pull-ups came in my opinion. So again, it's like, this is all because of your behavior, Chris, in my opinion. So, you know, you look at the way that he was being treated and he was probably being talked to, and it's kind of like, again, this is because of what you were doing. You know, I don't think there was any difficulties. Again, I don't think he would have been left home alone if he was not able to take care of himself, things like that. And were they hoping something would have happened when they left him home alone? Like, I mean, it just makes you wonder, like, and then like you're saying with the school that they were trying to get him into and all these other things, it's just like, again, it breaks my heart in the sense of like, you just feel like he was just sitting and who knows what he heard them talking about, you know what I mean? And it's just sad. But, let me see. Okay, so we went from, this is where I said possibly, you know, who might be saying something I felt is probably one of these hate channels, you know, that they had kind of been conspiring with. So, and it says there is at least one witness or source who holds a crucial piece of information, and they are either thinking about coming forward or they already have quietly. So Katie, his mother, mental and emotional state. Katie is emotionally unstable right now, but is still in denial. Her fears are public humiliation and being exposed as someone who allowed harm or possibly participated by enabling it. She has a deep fear of being seen as a bad mother, yet has emotionally disconnected from what actually happened. Cognitive dissonance, sorry, it's a tongue tire for me, is high, and she tells herself stories to survive the truth. I didn't know. It wasn't that bad. I couldn't stop it. So she fears being alone and losing any remaining control of her family support. Spiritually, she is haunted, but instead of awakening, she is fleeing into distraction, denial, or even addiction behaviors. So this is going to be the last part of it. So the summary is Sebastian's energy is around her, is griefful, but is starting to somewhat resolve. He is no longer trying to reach her, but watches from afar, and he is protected. He's accepted her inability to grow or own what happened. So that is the end of the document for them. So how do you kind of feel with the summary of what you think, like if when you're tapping into like how you feel about Sebastian's case recently? Do you feel that some of those things could be happening, or
I
do
do
you feel
feel
like they've
like
just been oddly quiet?
he is oddly quiet.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, like, nobody has really said anything different than they normally haven't. So I don't think he's quiet because nobody is saying anything about him. I think he's just quiet because it's like he was like very vocal and then he just stopped.
Yeah.
Like he
And
didn't.
lately, some of the stuff they're saying about him, you would expect him to come out and say something.
Yeah.
Especially some of the videos when he's got so upset about some of the light videos that Mob Crew was putting out. And some of the other channels now who are not only doing that, like they have it zoomed in like infrared of like actual shapes and things. It's kind of like, I'm surprised he's not coming out and commenting on some of that stuff.
Right.
So like you said, it would be interesting to see if someone told him to kind of calm himself down. I think it was kind of a bit of both. I think he was told to calm down a bit. And then I think that he's starting to feel some kind of shake and some kind of pressure and something, and he doesn't know where it's coming from. So I think it is somebody close to him. It does feel more like, again, a female energy for me. So I don't know what it is with all the female energies lately, but I don't know. They're not acting right. So at least this one they are.
It could be his mom. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because at the court, I think a couple of things too affected him. Because like when he went, Bullhorn Betty and him had their court day. You know, that has been some of the charges against Betty were dropped.
I meant to ask that. I didn't hear about that. So that's good to know.
Something
so did they say
dropped.
like why it wasn't enough evidence, or
it wasn't enough evidence to go forward. Now she still has to appeal. I'm not quite sure what the appeal is about. She still has to appeal. But I think what the protective order didn't drop. That's still there.
Yeah.
But protective order from what? If you didn't find grounds, if you didn't find grounds to go to the grand jury, then how can the protective order even stand?
Well, and didn't all this start just because she put up flyers where she wasn't supposed to? So you want a protective order for someone coming into your neighborhood where your son went missing and they're trying to help find him, and that's what you want protection from.
And she was never even on their property at all.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that either.
She was never on their property, so I don't see anything that she done wrong.
Yeah, I don't either.
She was trying to put flowers out for Sebastian, but I think that happened, and then she came out and said the charges have been dropped. You know, I still have the protection order against me. Yeah. And then somebody came on and said, no, it's fake documents. And then Betty come back and said, well, I'm taking the chance of going to jail. Because if I forge these type of documents or fake them, I'm going to be in trouble. That's a federal offense, you know.
Yeah.
So I think copped with that, and the fact that he really, this last time, he really showed his butt.
Yeah.
He really showed his butt last time. And I kind of think together it's a combination of somebody saying, okay, you need to calm your roll. You need to sit your arse down somewhere and be the F quiet and stop stirring the pot. And or you're going to bring, I don't know how you could bring more attention to them than they already did.
And it's all about the wrong stuff. Like this whole time, it's never been about like, let's find Sebastian. Where is he? Like, let's do our best. You know, it's always been like about defending. And that's what, like what you're saying about the channels, they don't like, are the channels who are the most articulate about it, the most detailed, the most like, probably did something, in my opinion. Like, you know what I mean? And here's the reasons why.
Yeah.
So it's logical. It's logical. It's a way that everybody can understand it. And that's what pisses them off.
Right.
Because when you get logical and everybody can understand you, like I'm a third grader, then you're in trouble when you're really lying. You know what I mean? And so that's the issue they're having, is that it's so broken down. Like, talk to me like I'm 3 years old, to the point everybody can see it. Everybody can see there's something wrong here. Yeah. And again, the more he screams, which is constantly, and as soon as you don't have to really do anything to trigger him. He's constantly triggered. Yeah. So, and that's what makes me feel bad also for like poor Sebastian. Like you're saying, if they did have cameras in the kitchen, things like that, what did he like go in the fridge and then yell at him through the Ring camera to get out of the fridge? I mean, you just, this poor child probably couldn't move without him being down his throat. You know what I mean? And that's infuriating. That's upsetting. You know what I mean? It's just like, you jumped on this child for being a child. And that just, this is going to be like, this is probably like one of the few cases I just don't have words for. Almost, with the way that they did things. And that, you know, I mean, all of these cases are horrible and all the things they do are horrible, but this one, like, there's almost not even words. That I mean, sinister isn't even a good enough word to say how I feel or can fit the situation, you know, or just, it's just so bad.
And I think like with Katie, things are being brought out. It's made her look like not a good mom, not protecting her son, like being around a SA or SA, you know, being around one of those, and that'd be her only her, not only was she an offender, but it was her mom, you know, and you put your child in that position, and then what happened to him in California. So there's another strike against you. You're not protecting your son.
No. And then if you look at the Roadhouse video, and if we go with the theory that, again, this was probably something, in my opinion, from what I've seen, that could have possibly been orchestrated. You look at that Roadhouse video, she knows exactly what was going to happen. And she still ain't talking to him and paying attention to, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying like that, but it just shows you that's how cold. It shows you you knew exactly what was going to happen to that poor child that night, and you didn't even give enough of a shit about him to talk to him at dinner. You know what I mean? Like, she tosses the menu out. It's like, again, you just want to reach through there and just like,
And people are like, well, I don't really think the Texas Roadhouse video has anything to do with this disappearance. It may not
have everything to do with it,
but it shows. That's what, for me, that's what it shows behavior, how she acted with him probably on a daily basis.
Yeah. And again, knowing that she knows probably, in my opinion, what's going to happen in that video. Again, I mean, it just breaks your heart.
Yeah.
It breaks your heart for him, and you just want to jump in and just stop the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't, and it makes you so angry.
Don't go home. Don't go. Just
Yeah.
like,
You just want to stop and be like, no, don't, you know, like, come with me, you know, just come with me. And
it's
you
just
can't.
like the Chris Watts video when you see Shanann doing her last video. I'm going to do this. I'm leaving North Carolina. It's like, don't leave.
Yeah.
Don't leave. Stay there. But you can't.
And all the things that were happening, the storm, and it almost didn't happen. And then almost like the perfect storm happened almost to where she did send her that direction.
Right.
And like you even said, like when the video, like you're saying, watching her, or, you know, the stuff in the video or the comment she made and wanting to stop her that way. You even see when they finally got a better look into the video of the girls being put into the car, one and running across. Same thing. You want to so bad stop them right there and just grab the girl, you know, because you know what's about to happen and you can't do anything.
No.
And I'm starting to see a lot of these cases, like the Madeline Soto thing. Same thing. Her, like, they didn't go to her birthday party that day. That same girl went missing the same day as Sebastian. You know, the stepfather murdered her, but it was like, the mom knew. They knew what was going to happen. Where like they're talking about certain things in it, like thinking that Madeline could have possibly been pregnant, things like that. So it's just so sad. You see these kids, and even that day of. That's why I said you see in Madeline's when you watch like Plunder stuff about her, how her friends saying that day she wasn't, you know, her birthday, she wasn't really having that great of a day that they thought she would. The same thing with Sebastian, you know, and his dad saying when he looked back at some of the pictures, he didn't look like he was having as much fun, and it breaks your heart even more.
Yeah,
like, even more, you know. And it's
I didn't really notice it then. Because you're
Right.
not looking for those things.
No.
You know, that you're
No.
not looking for tragedy that's going to happen. You're not even
Yeah.
thinking in that frame of mind.
And I feel like Seth felt like too, possibly, and this is just my opinion from what I think he felt like, I've already agreed to take him and I went to school, and I agreed with him. He was letting him finish out school. That's
Yeah.
a normal thing to do, letting your child finish out school before you take him to a different area
Yeah.
or a different school, But I mean, he only had 2 or 3 months. Like the fact that these 2, rejects couldn't
Yep.
just get over themselves and
Mhm.
let, I don't know. Again, it's almost like you don't have words to put into it. It's just.
Yeah. It's just so unbelievable that
It's
people.
so unbelievable. And
Yeah.
then you did this too, possibly based on the fact that you thought you were going to get your daughter. Did you really think after all this you were going to get your daughter?
Yeah.
Like, who told you that? And the 2 of you sat together, and as intelligent as the both of you were supposed to be, like, y'all used to defend our country, apparently.
Yeah.
And this is what y'all are doing?
And I don't think they ever went to court. I think that was changed. I think
Yeah.
it was I don't know that it was canceled. I don't know if it was put off or canceled or.
They're probably pushing it back because it sounds so stupid. And
Yeah.
they know it looks stupid. It makes them
Yeah.
look stupid. So they probably just keep pushing it back because they're like, well, crap. We put our foot in our mouth on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But I mean, that whole thing with them is just ridiculous. That I will be so happy the day that they are arrested.
Me too.
And I will just pray for, I will say it's going to happen. I'm not going to say if, when is how I feel for the 2 of them.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the whole thing is just infuriating. The same thing with Summer too. The more I'm looking into Summer's more, from being with yours and stuff, it's,
Mhm.
I think her hair was cut that way on purpose for a reason. Like, I mean, tons of things, where you're, again, horrifying. Like, you're looking at this, and then I found out that, like, the CPS thing with Summer, and this doesn't really apply to Sebastian, maybe because of the age, but because Summer was under 9 or something like that. Like, it was a felony for the CPS.
She was 5.
Right. So I think it's like up to the age of 9 or something like that in Tennessee. It's a felony. So Summer's the only one that goes missing, and the 2 boys are both over the age of 9, to my knowledge, when this happened. And then you look at the fact that her hair was completely cut off.
Shaved.
Shaved down like a boy.
Yeah, not even like buzz. Her head was slick.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was to purposely make her look like a boy.
Yeah.
And not look like her.
There was no it wasn't a lice thing.
No, because the boys had hair longer than hers when they finally showed them. So if it was a lice thing, they would have cut their hair too. Mm-hmm. But even if it was a lice thing, my kids got lice one time. We're going with someone's house, and they both have longer hair than what Summer had, and I didn't have to shave their head.
Right.
So why would you have to shave a little girl? And why would you want to? Like, I would do my best to not have to shave her head.
Well, and lice gets down, and really it's not so much in your hair as in your scalp, because they get down in your scalp.
Yeah, exactly. I can put this on the screen because I tease Chris all the time about this, that he needs to change, change the whole outlook on the name Chris. So whenever we read stuff, he's like, gosh, I hate my name. I was like, I know, right? I was like, so that should be a good motivation for you to do better. I was like, because all these horrible people are named Chris. Okay, so don't be one of them, Chris.
Chris Watts, Chris Bradfoot.
Yeah, just tons of them. Tons of them. So, but yeah, that's funny. I'm glad you said that, Tara. Reading our minds.
Will the real Chris please stand up? That's right.
Right.
Will the honorable Chris stand up?
Right. You'll get all the Proudfoot standing up. Like me? No, that's the issue. Okay. It ain't me, babe. Who was that from? That's a movie. I don't remember which movie that is. But
speaking of Chris, there was that wrestler. You were talking about wrestlers earlier. Is it Beno? Chris Beno? Is that how you say it?
Chris?
Beno?
Yeah. What's that Chris dude who had killed his whole family that was a wrestler? Chris Benet or
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Benoit. Okay.
Yeah, I was same thing.
Somebody had asked me to do a reading on him because they were like, I don't know if he really killed his whole family.
Oh,
and I looked into it just a little bit, and he had this weird religious thing that he was into. And so I stopped right there because I thought, well, if I'm going to do a reading, I don't need to let that influence my reading.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like he did. I mean,
Yeah, I think he did.
he really did just do that.
I think he was like, I think he had like, I don't know if it was like considered brain damage or whatever from wrestling, but I think he, or maybe it could be, I don't know if he used substances. I'm sure he probably did.
Steroids.
You know, yeah, they usually kind of do, especially from like pain. They get a lot of pain stuff eventually at that point.
Yeah, they're beating crap out of all the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they hit up with all them like concussions and stuff, I guess, or brain bleeds and things. But speaking of Chris's and staying on that theme, there was another Chris that had been compared to the Watts. Did you see that one where he had killed? It was his wife, and it was 2 boys
it was the first Chris Watts or something. It's like Canada's Chris Watts,
I think it was Canada's,
or Britain or Canada.
It was Canada, I think, because and he was on like Joyce Myers. He was like a bodyguard for Joyce Myers. Did you see that?
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't look at it, but I seen
but it was horrible. This dude, like, he had like killed them all, obviously, but like he even like went and like spray painted stuff over the kids' sheets, like curse words and bad things on their sheets. And that's when I was like, and again, Chris's just gets worse. And I was just like, you better end this now, Chris, or we're gonna have a big problem. I'm gonna kick you out. I'm gonna kick you out just because your name is Chris, and I fear for my.
Oh no. We'll just stick with Chief.
Yeah, Chief's the better one.
Yeah, that's better. Steroid opiates.
Who, that Chris guy? Benoit? Benoit? Oh, they did prove that?
Okay.
Yeah, I think they did.
That's
and
so
ego. He threw in an ego.
An ego. Yeah, well, yeah.
That's funny.
And he did have a weird religion thing, though.
Was he in Scientology, too? Was he one of those?
He was in some religion, but I didn't continue into it because he left like a Bible and something else. I think he left a Bible open, or he did a Bible verse or something, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Canada wants Chris too?
Yeah, I think it's Canada, Chris Watts. Well, Google it.
Yeah, the Canada's Chris Watts. I think his name was Chris, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what his last name was, but it was a good episode too. I think it was probably like on like a Beyond Evil or something like that. A lot of them play all those episodes.
Yeah.
There's some other ones I've been looking at lately too that I wanted to pull up. Just like there was one that I was watching, just speaking of autism. Huh? Rodney? Oh, Chris Robbie? Yeah, I don't know. That's Chris Robbie. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's right. But yeah, it doesn't sound right instinctually. No, that's not right. That's not right at all. Who's Jasmine?
Robbie Jasmine.
That name alone is a crime.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I'll look that up and see what it is. But yeah, there is one like, but just speaking of autism, and I was saying how this is becoming more common. I was watching, and this kid, you know, nobody was like, it wasn't a murder one. It was just like the cops doing a welfare check. But like they had like a cage, like they had built a cage in their living room, and this poor kid just stayed inside of it. And all he kept asking, and all he said was just open the gate or open the door. Like that's all he would say and parrot over and over again. And they just left the kid down there. So that's what I was saying. The more like you watch some of these episodes are starting to come out, I don't know if the autism and the mistreatment is becoming more, or you're just starting to see it more. So I'm not really sure, but I kind of want to go into some of those and look at some of those more too in the future. You know, like maybe do like one of just different, like, look at this, you know what I mean? Because you watch some of them and it's crazy.
Remember the officer was like, oh, they're autistic? The video, the officer was like, oh, they're autistic.
Yeah.
Like it was no big deal.
Yeah, they'll say, yeah, that's true. In the videos, the officers or like the parents will usually go, well, oh, they're autistic, you know? And so it's almost like, oh, well, you know,
okay, then.
Yeah, like, okay, well, no problem. You know, we're going to go ahead and leave now. Just
that explains everything. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of what it is. They do that a lot more, and I'm kind of shocked. Now, again, you do see a few where the officers are becoming very educated, and they are trying to educate and stuff like that. But in most of them, they are kind of just like, oh, well, they're autistic. So, you know, kind of like, well, maybe that's just what happened, you know? So it is interesting how they kind of throw that out there.
I mean, they may not even be autistic.
That's what I'm starting to wonder. it kind of
And they-
seems like parents are just starting to use that as an excuse for mistreatment, but that's not even an excuse for mistreatment. So it's
No.
like, where are y'all getting this from in the first place? It's
Right.
kind of what you're wondering, you know?
Mhm.
And I think it is just watching each other. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that Malaya Brooks, whatever Murray, her name is, that is Lily and Jack's mom, watched all of the missing, like Chris Watson and Katie Proudfoot and Casey Anthony's, just rolled everything into one. You know, because that's what you kind of get from her stuff. So, and a bunch of people do compare all those different ones in it. So, it is starting to get, like, even Megan Boswell sounded just like Casey Anthony. It waited the whole 30 days or whatever it was. And that's why I was saying about like a law coming around, you know, for like we did Kaylee's law so that you had to report the child missing. And if you didn't, you got charged for just about reporting the child missing.
Right.
So like what I'd love to ideally see it like with Sebastian's case maybe is like a Sebastian's law in the sense of like, if for whatever reason this child disappears or you can't find or something happens, or Summer too, and you know it's in the same state, so Summer or Sebastian, you know, make it a combined law. But like if there's previous reports of CPS or like abuse or something like that, then you can still be charged and you can still be put in jail, even if this child disappears or is not around to testify against you or say anything, because these parents are starting to think that's a reason that you can do this or something like that.
Get away with it.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, well, if there's not, you know, someone to say, you know, that something happened, well, then it has to just disappear with the child. No, it doesn't. Not anymore. You know, and there should be an accountability held there because, again, if you got all this stuff against them, like I feel like the CP or the PFs do, then, or, you know, even like with Summer's case, that's enough. I think that's enough for most people, and that's enough for most juries.
Yeah.
And so, especially in Texas, where I am, Louisiana, where you are, I would think hopefully Tennessee is almost the same. But it doesn't feel like it with Tennessee. Tennessee is starting to feel a lot like Florida. Except I will say for Florida, they are a lot tighter on their kid laws, though.
They're getting better. Florida's getting better. Yeah.
Quick for kids.
Yeah.
Not some other stuff most of the time, but they are getting better, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm starting to feel like Tennessee is a lot like Florida.
Tennessee has gotten really, I mean, here lately, you're hearing it a lot from Tennessee. Like Sebastian's from Tennessee, Summer's from Tennessee.
Yeah, there's another one too recent that is from Tennessee that I just saw not that long ago, and I was going to look into that one too, but I can't remember it. But I have to see it come back into like algorithm or something, just because I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But yeah, that one was out of Tennessee in the same situation. Again, kid just walked off. Parents are like, don't know what happened. So it's what I'm saying. They're just following that trend.
And the other thing is if they do something, if say CPS has been there before, then if they do something again, like even if there's a small accident, they're not going to call 911 because they've already had CPS on them. So now there's an accident. So they're not going to call 911 because they're afraid they're going to be
in more trouble or have their other kids taken away, like what happened. But also it would be interesting, and I would like to see too, is you can't use mental diagnoses either as random anymore, because you've seen that with Lily and Jack's, and then possibly, and I'm not saying they didn't have it, but she's kind of flighty with it, just like how Katie was kind of flighty with it in the beginning. Now I do think Sebastian has it, but again, I do think that it was more recent of the diagnosis. So I do think that like if a child goes missing, you can't say, well, they're autistic and they wonder, you know what I mean? Like they should be diagnosed if you're going to use that, like as far as like using the law and things like that, like they should be diagnosed, or you know there should be something. But I don't think you should be just able to say, well, they might be autistic, so they wondered, and you know that could have been what happened, because that seems like what they're getting, maybe because that's maybe why the autism thing's coming in so much. It's just been easier to say, well, we don't know, they wandered off and they're actually physically moving these kids or something like that, and it's the easiest route. Well, they could be autistic, they wonder, you know what I mean? So everybody knows that now.
Thanks. That explains everything. That's exactly what they want to hear. And
so I would want to see a diagnosis. I would want a history, and I mean a long history before I considered listening to these people.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think would be nice too, to maybe tie into the law. And if there is like some type of mental like disability or something like that, like even harder a lot, like, you know, like, so just say for like, in my opinion, if CP and KP were to be charged, not only should they be charged for what happened before he even went missing, but they should also be charged for the fact that he was special needs. Even the fact that if they were leaving him in a pull-up by himself, that's even more of another charge. That's neglect. Would you do that with a child? No, you shouldn't. So there's tons of things that you can look into that. And there's tons, I feel like that would be something nice to see in the future for these kind of situations.
And letting him around SO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard where apparently, allegedly, a school teacher messaged CP. And again, why is CP being messaged? Why isn't KP or, why isn't KP being messaged? I'm going to leave it right there with her. So say CP got messaged about supposedly the pull-up and maybe having an accident or something like that. And he tells the teacher, this should be a charge, to let him sit in it.
Yeah.
I pray to God he didn't do that. I really do. I really pray to God that's a lie. And if it's not, that should be a charge. Because again, would you do that to a toddler, possibly, in a pull-up? I don't think so. And that would be considered neglect. So again, it's just all these things. If it was true and you really were doing these things, then you should be charged for neglect on those things alone for what y'all did.
And how did they text?
And they've already admitted to it. They've already admitted to it.
Yeah. And how did they text Chris? Because apparently he worked all the time and he worked on that crane, and you can't have your cell phone up there.
No. And he's not the biological parent. So I get that, like,
he shouldn't have. Yeah.
He should have been the first go-to for that. Like when Andrew needs something, do they communicate with Chris and things like that about Andrew? They do. But when there's something like if Andrew's sick, I get called. If there's an accident, I get called.
Right. Yeah.
So it recently just happened, like a couple days, on the Friday or something, he came home early. So and he wasn't feeling good, but again, called me. If it's something small, like, oh, his, yearbook is in his backpack or something, they might text him. So again, CP had way too much control in this situation, and I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Why? And you see how he talks, you see how he acts, and it's just
because Katie allowed it.
Yeah, because they're going to do what the mother tells them to do.
I'm not saying she's a meek person by any means, because I don't believe she is. But she allowed him to do that. She still allowed him to do it.
Yeah, because it stops with you, full stop.
Yeah.
Anything like that, and like you said, being in a relationship where you have a step parent, I discipline Andrew for the most part. I mean, if something happens and I feel that needs to happen, then that's a judgment call in the moment. But for the most part, like, no, there's, if especially if something's ever happened and I felt that like somebody maybe overstepped a boundary with him, or they said or did something they shouldn't, like I would kick them out in that moment.
Yeah.
Like I've had to make someone actually like, you need to go right now. Like you're not welcome actually after that behavior. So, I mean, and the fact that she didn't do that makes it more alarming and makes you again just wonder, makes you wonder. And then again, all the neighbors are saying they heard them fighting, they heard them arguing, and that she's just as much got a pipes on her than he does.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I believe it. That's what I'm saying. I believe if anything, I think she could manhandle him if she wants to. That's all I'm saying. Like I don't think that he, I don't think that he could completely have the upper hand. I think she could get with him if she wanted to. So from what I hear and what I saw, her behavior, in my opinion.
Agree. Yeah.
I think she probably wiped the floor with him if she really wanted to. Like pretty good.
Yeah, she's not a wallflower by any means.
Not at all. But all right, so that was kind of what I wanted to go over in this live.
Okay.
So I appreciate it, and thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I said, we'll kind of I'll look into the next document again for maybe next Sunday, and we'll kind of just maybe I'll look for those articles and maybe the other interviews too with Lily and Jack's family. Okay. So that we can kind of just look at that, like you said, maybe the grandmother, see which one that is, and then just kind of look for the interview where he's crying and the articles and stuff. Okay. But so thank you everybody for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. And you want to tell everybody goodbye and then kind of let them know your channel and all that?
Yeah. Thank y'all for joining. I appreciate you. Good to see you, Tara. I haven't seen you in a while. And Diana, thank you for coming in, and on Megan's live, thank you for coming in. Just look for me and Megan, like she said, next Sunday, you think?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think we're going to try to maybe Sundays at 6.
Okay. My next live will be Wednesday, and it'll be on summer. So It'll be on summer. It'll be next Wednesday night. I go so late because it's just easier by the time I get
Yeah.
home because I have the grandkids till like 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah,
So
but it's great live because I always rewatch them in the morning, so it's a lot, always like good information. And always stuff I haven't heard yet,
yeah.
So that's kind of why I
Well,
like to look at it.
there's so much stuff that happened during Summer's case. Like it's stuff that I go back and I'm like, wow, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Because it was just so much. It went so much stuff coming in at one time.
yeah, I don't remember a lot of it either, and that's why rewatching it now is kind of like you say, maybe just the fresh eye, or not hearing it because there was so much at first, but kind of just replaying everything again. You kind of do get that chance to kind of look at it and just hear it differently. So it's nice to kind of see that. So yeah, check out, Tammie's channel and, kind of put the bell on and you'll get the notification whenever she goes live. So thank y'all again, everyone. And I hope that y'all have a good night and we will see y'all Sunday. Bye.
Thank you, Tara.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah, and everybody, and Chief and Diana and everybody else. So y'all have a good one and we will see you next time. Bye. Thanks.